Call the meeting order. We good?
All right.
Okay, great. Roll call, please.
All right, Councilmember Behill,
Here.
Vice Mayor Schmidt,
Present.
Mayor Sherrod,
Here.
Scott,
Here.
Burley,
All right, pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Did you see how he stands for that?
I
have like close to it.
He's in the corner.
Yeah, he's in trouble.
Okay, next is public comment. The public may address the city council on any item of public interest.
report out of closed.
Oh, sorry, let me report out of closed session. That needs to be changed on the agenda. Haley, if you could swap that. We're going to report out of closed session. Direction has been given to staff. All right, and now we're on to
How's it going?
public comment. So the public may address the city council on any items of public interest not otherwise on the agenda that is within the jurisdiction of the city. No action may be taken. Matters to be addressed may be referred to city staff or placed on a subsequent meeting agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes per person. Do you have any public comment? Hey, Nate. Hi, Nate.
Hello.
Hi, Kate. I'll say hi to Kate.
I said Kate, I said it at the same time.
You did not.
Yes.
We did public comment? Yes.
Go ahead.
I'm Nathan Young. I just want to come back and say I'd love to see a sign that says Historic Angels Camp on the road since we're not doing roundabout anytime soon. Just to redirect a lot more traffic down here. We need the tax dollars badly. That's all I got.
Are you looking at 49 and 4 or
Yeah, no.
down on? Okay. Next is the approval of the agenda as posted or amended. Do we have any?
Anyone online?
I'm gonna call.
Oh, you have another public comment?
Is there any public comment online? Please raise your hand. Okay, nothing.
No.
Somebody just
No.
now. That's not pertaining to any agenda item.
That does not pertain to any agenda item, please. You're on mute, Richard.
Okay.
There you go.
No, my comments have to do with the engineer's report. So is that something that we're going to defer to the report
Correct.
section or not?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Richard. We'll call on you when we get to that item.
Carol's on my news.
Okay. Okay, so we're moving on to approval of the agenda as posted or amended. Do you have any changes?
No.
Okay, anyone on council?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Third.
Roll call, please.
Sorry, I'm trying to switch the microphone so it goes to here. Roll call for Behill,
Aye.
Shemente,
Aye.
Sherrod,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Burley,
Aye.
carries.
Thank you. Moving on to item 10, consent items. We have 2 items. Do we need to pull the items? Do we have any public comment on consent? All right, hearing none.
I'll move we approve the consent items. I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Behill,
Aye.
Shemente,
Aye.
Sherrod,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Burley,
Aye.
carries.
Thank you. Item 11A, public hearing and resolution 2654, public hearing to consider the continuation of the assessment for fiscal year 26-27 for the landscaping and lighting district number 2, Greenhorn Creek assessment. Adoption of resolution number 2654, approving the engineer's report confirming the diagram and assessment and ordering the continuation of assessment for fiscal year 26-27. And I'll turn that over to Kyle.
All right, good evening, Mayor, members of the council, staff, and public. Kyle Pinkard, Senior Consultant with SCI Consulting Group. So tonight for your consideration is a resolution that would approve the report, confirm the diagram and assessment, and order the levy of assessments for fiscal year 26-27 for the Greenhorn Creek Landscape and Lighting District Number 2. So this is the final step in the annual process for levying the assessments for inclusion on the property tax bills to provide the district with funding for the upcoming fiscal year. So at the May 19th City Council meeting, the council reviewed the preliminary engineer's report and adopted resolution number 26-53 to declare its intention to continue the assessments, preliminarily approve the engineer's report, and to provide notice of the annual public hearing tonight. So the final engineer's report budget includes costs associated with providing landscape and lighting maintenance services for the upcoming fiscal year. The estimated fiscal year 26-27 cost is $292,010. So this results in a proposed assessment rate of $545 per single family equivalent benefit unit, which is a decrease in the rate charged last year. So additionally, there is also an annual inflationary adjustment that is calculated to determine the maximum assessment rate for the district each year. So this year, the consumer price index increased by 3.04%. As a result, the maximum assessment rate has been raised from $716.22 to $737.98. However, based on the budget provided by the Greenhorn Creek Committee and their recommendation that the assessment rate will actually decrease by $50 this year. So to conclude, each year the council is required to conduct a notice public hearing, receive any public input on the proposed assessments and the services that they would fund in order to continue to levy the assessments for the upcoming fiscal year. So after taking public comment, the council may take final action on setting the assessment rate and ordering the continuation of the assessments for fiscal year 26-27. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Just again, how much money is the lowered assessment going to generate?
292,000.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Do I open the public hearing before I open? Okay. So at this time, I'll open the public hearing and we'll open it up to public comment. Do we have any public comment in the room? Hearing none. I know we have public comment online. We have Richard. Is it Richard? Any public comment online? Richard, can you hear us? It's time for you to have public comment if you would like.
Don't see nobody's on mute again.
There he goes.
Hello?
There you are.
We're hearing you.
Okay, yes, this is Richard Gutierrez. I met the letter, a 3-page letter, but I'm not going to go through that. I'd just like to hit some key points in the engineer's report. The report continues to use numbers that are out of date. I'm not sure where they get the numbers. Example is the 30,000 rounds of golf. Those have been in there since 2022 report. That just can't be possible that we're having the same amount of rounds each year. Also with regards to page 55 of the report, the engineer has an analysis that says that 7 golfers in the clubhouse, blah, 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 and restaurant number of restaurant customers. Again, that number is the same from the last 2-3 reports, and that just cannot be accurate. And now with the new owner, that number for sure will be changing. So I'm not sure why the report continues to use numbers going back to 2022 as the basis for the calculation, though the assessment number keeps changing. So those are two comments that are in my letter also, if you want to look at those. But the other thing is that you mentioned the rate of $5.45 per SFE, but you don't mention at all the $81.75 for unimproved lots, and I have some comments about that, and I can't get to those in 5 minutes. I'd like to also know who reviews the report. I'd like to thank Mr. Hodgson for meeting with me last Thursday, and I brought this to his attention that in the 2024 report, we were charged, the LLD would charge $45,000 for legal services, but the report did not address what that money was used for. So I'd like to get some kind of feedback to what was done to come up with a $45,000 legal fee. And that, again, like I said, is not addressed in the report. It's being signed by the professional engineer. And I guess that's my major comment, that the PE from SCI is stamping this document, attesting to the accuracy, and he's putting his license on the line. And the rates, the two different rates, the 545 and the 87, the only time you can see those rates are in that A1 at the end of the report, which are very difficult to read. So again, my constant comment is, why are we doing this LLD? We're maintaining property that doesn't belong to the city, and it doesn't belong to the residents. And again, the report never states in the report why we are supporting this property that does not belong to the public, and it doesn't belong to the residents. It's a private property. Again, that's not in the report, so it's not a very complete report. And those are my key comments. I just don't think it's a well-prepared report. And the major thing, again, the calculations, I don't know how you can get to that final assessment when the numbers, the variables keep changing every year. And those don't change in the report, so something's up, the report's just incomplete. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment online?
I don't see anything online.
Bringing it back to the council for any other comments you might have.
Just for a little bit of a background, when Greenhorn Creek was developed, one of the conditions of the development was the formation of the LLD to handle such things as landscape along there's medians, there's sidewalks, maintenance of wetlands, streetlights, all within Greenhorn are maintained by this fund. And it's actually been challenged in court, and it's been shown that the city does have the right to make a business decision to support the LLD, even though there are a mixture of public and private properties. This has been going on for 30 years, almost, I think. 1990, maybe 33 years, 1993 or 4. And then I would like, the question about the numbers not changing each year in the report, I would like Kyle to address that. I think that there's a logical and practical answer for that. I'm sure he can enlighten us. And as far as I will address the $45,000 legal fee that was in the budget in 2024, I think it was. There was a U.S. Supreme Court decision that basically said that what was determined wetlands within Greenhorn Creek are no longer determined wetlands by the federal government. And so I was heading the LLD committee at the time, and we decided to pad that legal fee because we didn't know what it was going to take that year to try to ascertain what our responsibilities still were or might have been. That money was never spent. We never did a deep dive into that, but it was in that budget for that reason. And I think that's it.
Supreme Court decision.
And did you want Kyle to respond?
I'd like Kyle to respond to that, 'cause
Kyle,
I
do
know
you
he's got an
mind-
answer. and
Do you
he's
mind
dying to say
responding,
it.
Kyle?
Sure, happy to answer the question regarding the golf course methodology. So the reason the figures appear unchanged is that the assessment methodology is established during the original Prop 218 proceedings and balloting. And this cannot be modified without conducting a new balloting process. Proposition 218 strictly limits any changes to assessment calculations. So any revision to the methodology, updating the estimated grounds, including updates to, the metrics such as the golf rounds that are played would constitute a material change that would require a new engineer's report, public noticing, and a property owner balloting proceeding. So for this reason, the assessment calculations and the supported usage assumptions remain consistent year over year, unless until a new Proposition 218 process is conducted. So while this may result in repetition of certain data, such as the usage of figures from the original analysis, it's necessary to preserve the legal validity of the current assessment structure. And then I do also want to touch upon the comment regarding vacant lots. So with respect to lots with new homes, the engineer's report already includes a methodology for this situation. So vacant or undeveloped parcels are assigned 0.15 SFEs because they receive a lower level of benefit than improved residential parcels. However, once a parcel is improved with a single-family residence, it is then assigned 1 SFE, which is consistent with the residential property methodology in the engineer's report. So each year, SEI reviews the current county assessor data and other available parcel information when preparing the annual assessment roll. So if a parcel that was previously vacant has been improved with a new home, that parcel will be updated from the vacant land factor to the applicable residential factor. And then also if a property owner believes that a parcel has been classified incorrectly, the engineer's report also includes an appeal process through the city administrator or designee with any unresolved dispute referred to the city council.
Thank you. I see that Richard has his hand up again. Haley, do you know how much time he has left of his 5 minutes?
He has 1.5 minutes.
Okay, great. So Richard, you have 1.5 minutes left of your 5 minutes.
Okay, first of all, the continual issue that this LLD was mandated, if you go back to the 1995 404 permit from the Corps of Engineers, they had suggested an LLD to fund the ponds and the wetlands. Only that Mr. Stephen went back to the city council and passed a resolution to include all of the other property that would normally be common area in a HOA. So that was not part of the original Corps of Engineers requirement. And there's even a letter that the city council has, and I can provide it from Mike Christoph, who was the GM from Green North, stating that their only concern was the ponds, nothing else. And then the other thing is these calculations. What you're telling me is that it's clear that the LLD is the wrong application for this. I'm still waiting for that legal opinion that says that you can use an LLD for private property. I'm still waiting for that, because what's happening is you're going to have to keep changing those calculations. I don't see how you can get around that. And you're saying, well, we'd have to go out for a 218, well, that's part of the problem. If you look at
15
the normal.
seconds, Richard.
Okay, if you look at the normal LLD application, there is no variables. The lot is there, the property's there, the houses are there. There's not this continued variability of like the rounds of golf, you have to be included.
Richard,
or
your
a
time is
restaurant.
Richard, your time is up, sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment? Online?
Nothing online.
Great. At this time, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the council for a motion.
Yeah, I'll move that we accept the, wait, what are we doing here?
Resolution 26.
Resolution 2654.
Let's get back to that. I'll move the item, proudly.
I will second.
The LOD is doing a great job and they're reducing the fees each year. And the community is very happy.
So we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Miko,
Aye.
Shemente,
Aye.
Sharada,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Relio.
Aye.
Great. Moving on to item 11B, Resolution 2665, review and vote on Resolution 2665 to ratify the professional services agreement with Dario's Landscaping for the landscaping services within the city's landscaping and lighting district, LLD. Michael?
Thank you, Mayor. In May of 2026, the RFP was conducted on behalf of the LLD to hire a firm that would do the basically fire defensible space contracts. Dario's was selected as the most responsive bidder, and we then were kind of in a little bit of a uncertain area. The contract is for 3 years and would total about $105,000. It's about $35,000 a year. I have signing authority to $50,000. It's a little unclear as to whether that is a $50,000. It's severable, so I think that I have that authority. However, out of an abundance of caution, I'm sure I wanted to bring this to you as a ratification. Also, because we were in May, and it's really important that they start that clearing soon, I thought I'd get them started and then we can come in and discuss it. So my ask for you today is just to ratify the contract. The work is already being done. It may already be completed at this point. And I did already commit the city, but I'd like the council to ratify.
And this is limited to $35,000 a year. It doesn't have to, we don't have to spend the whole $35,000.
I think it's limited to 105
Over
the
3
life.
years.
They can do some change orders in there if they wanted to do some other spaces, but their services are limited. They're not a C27 firm. They're not doing anything other than the weed.
Okay, that answers my question. Because didn't we hire or approve a new landscape contractor? So
Yes.
this is completely separate from that.
There's a JBS Landscaping
Right.
is their main contractor. They're $100,000
Right.
a year
Right.
for all the other things.
Right.
Again, this is just a defensible space.
Okay.
I had that confusion too, and in the scope of work, it said defensible
Right,
space.
okay.
which-
And all that's on me, my staff report, I use landscaping without thinking about the ramifications. When you're thinking landscaping per se, it should have been more clear, that's what I mean.
They handle fallen trees, they keep the historical trails clear, and of course the defensible maintenance. But they do a lot of onesies and twosies, like, oh, we have to address this, we have to address that, and they handle those things.
And that's based on what the LLD committee, they
Yes,
respond, okay, and they respond to the request from the committee.
right. The LOD committee has to maintain, or make sure that the engineer's report is adhered to and all that work is done. And so it falls outside of normal landscape. And this is part of
Perfect.
how we catch those.
Any other questions from the council? Any public comment?
Nothing online.
Nothing online?
So Mike, I appreciate you clearing this up because this has always been an issue with this vendor. So this is nice.
Okay, so we'll bring it back to council for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2665.
Second.
Miko,
Aye.
Shemente,
Aye.
Sharada,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Relio.
Aye.
Passes.
Okay, thank you. Now on to 11C, resolution number 2666, adopt fiscal year 26-27 budget. Kicking that off to the staff.
Thank you. So I'll kick it off. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Obviously, the heavy lift for tonight is the annual budget. And I'd be remiss if I didn't start with a big thank you to Michelle. You all know is fantastic. Her meetings consistently with the department heads who have back and forth with what we could fit into our budget or not. An interesting anomaly that came up the other day is because of the changing of financial systems. About 3 weeks ago, she was literally juggling 3 fiscal years at the same time. The auditors were on deck, wanted to pull individual data from the 24-25 year. We're trying to close out 25-26, get all the invoices in, because you don't get the invoice and it doesn't fit into this year, and do the budget for next year. So she has been like a one-arm paper hanger, as they say. I'm grateful to her and the staff. That was a huge help in that. This budget is, as it's been in the past, is a balanced budget. I think that's phenomenal. It shows, I think, a great deal of restraint by the council and again by staff who came with very reasonable requests. Nobody was asking for things that were just outlandish, and I thought a really collaborative process in that. I do want to talk a little bit about my concerns about the longer term and that we are limited. You see our TOT and our sales tax revenues are going down over time. Sales tax, property tax goes up, but because of Prop 13, individual properties can only go up by 2% a year. When someone buys a new house or builds on or something, they get some reassessment. So even if that were to cap at 3%, but inflation is 4.6 at the last one number I saw. So there's going to be some challenges ahead. We have some ideas on how we might grow that. That's not necessarily the scope of today, but I didn't want to. We need to look at some longer term deals, and we'll bring that back to the council in the future. But with that, again, my gratitude to the council and particularly to Michelle, and I will turn it over to you now.
Okay.
Thank you. Good evening. Here we are. Mayor, council members. So I'm here tonight to present to you our budget for fiscal year 26-27. Doesn't sound real that we're heading into that, doesn't it? In front of you or on your screen, you'll find our budget book. I wanted to let you know there were a couple of pages that didn't get, the numbers are correct in the budget, but some of the narrative didn't get updated when I had done the mass update and pulled it together. And so Haley has a copy of that. That will be the correct one posted. That's the city council page. It said it wasn't a non-election year, and it actually is an election year, and the cost did go up because in the operating, we had included the cost for the election, and so that's really what that increased cost would be estimated. In the years past, we've always budgeted a little bit more, and so we have a savings that'll just go unspent. So we have it there. And then the other part was in building and planning, and we'll go through that section. There were some pieces there that needed to be updated. So when we present it and we put it out on our website, it will be corrected, and I believe the one on the screen here is the corrected one. So talking a little bit, Mike shared about the revenues, and in our projections for this budget, we were able to balance the budget with the revenues that we are projected to come in through the general fund. So the general fund supports our programs, our city hall's program, and then our fire, police, public works, building and planning, engineering, any city council expenses, and our legal expenses. So those are going to come through what we call the general fund. What supports those are our sales tax we bring in, property tax, TOT, that's our tourism tax. Some of those are designated for specific programs like tourism, public safety, and roads. And then the majority of it will go into the general fund. And then we have some other revenues such as gas tax, Measure A specifically for fire, some franchise fees that come from like Comcast and Cal Waste. And so those come in to build the revenues that we're basing this on. plus some interest because we have money in our reserves that we invest, and we're earning 3 to 3.5% on those investments, and they're in different CDs and money's all liquid. So we can have access to it anytime, but we hope to just stick that away and get some interest off of that. So bringing that in, we're estimating in our revenues that come through on the general fund. And then our expenses go to support the programs in the general fund. And so some of those programs will receive, like fire receives Measure A, we can't spend it anywhere else. There's funds that come in for public work, for roads, or for police, for public safety. Those are always spent first. So the most restrictive for that program, we're gonna spend first, and then anything after that's gonna come through those tax revenues to support those programs. Revenue will equal our expenditures out, and we'll have a zero budget, which means we don't have to go into our reserves. Now, of course, we're always in our budget planning and our expenses and whatnot, we're factoring in salaries. So what's planned for the year? Is somebody on the salary scale, are they due for a merit increase, or are they at the highest step and they'll only receive a COLA? What is in that MOU in terms of benefits that are guaranteed to those employees? That's what's planned in there, nothing else per the MOU. And then estimated costs on insurance, health insurance for that employee. We went to a fixed rate, and we were able to get police all on that flat rate this year, so we have all of our employees, which is nice. It helps with budgeting on that flat rate for insurance, so everybody gets the same amount and it's not a percentage. And then estimated for our retirement for our PERS and other benefits that we offer. So that's what goes into our salaries. And then our operating costs this year, we factored in a increase for inflation. Looking at history, I do a 3-year back. I look at what things have averaged. I look at what's happening in the economy, what people are predicting, what other cities are doing or counties, and kind of look at what is that's out there. And we'll factor in a 3 to 5% increase. Some categories we factored a little bit more in, some extra in fuel. We've noticed over the last quarter, fuel costs have been going up. So we're being conservative in that, and of course at mid-year, when we come back and we have a savings somewhere, or we get a little bit extra tax revenue, because I did do a 2% reduction in sales tax and TOT, then we're gonna come back to you and say, hey, we have this extra. It doesn't mean we necessarily have to spend it, but if there's anything we need in our program, we will bring that back to you. And then this year we have our capital reserve policy. So this is the first time we're actually budgeting and setting aside money for replacement equipment and vehicles. So we took a stab at our large equipment that we had on hand, looked at how old that was, what do we think we have left of life. Over a 10-year plan, we're gonna start putting away money. And you'll see a line item in each one of the budgets that will talk about capital reserve, and that's the portion for that year that we're gonna put away to start putting into that fund. So when we need to buy a vehicle or whatnot, we'll still, if the purchase is greater than $50,000, we have a procurement policy we have to follow, and we have to bring it to you. But we know the money's already set aside and planned for. So in this 10-year plan, the first year to ease our programs in, since we've never had to do this, is we're looking at a 50% contribution of that annual amount. Next year will be 75%, and then we'll get to 100%, and we'll just continue to build it. So it's a start, and we're committed, so it's exciting. Everybody, all the department heads are really happy about this, so it gives them a lot of flexibility, and we're being proactive, so. And so what I'm going to do is, that's sort of the methodology that went into building the budget. We'll start with administration and finance. In the administration department, we have 2 full-time employees. We have the city administrator and the admin services officer, who serves as HR, risk management, and also clerking. Haley, we're so happy to have, and Mike. And so those are 2 new positions that have been filled and budgeted for a full year, which is exciting. In the budget of salaries and benefits, And then in our finance department, you have myself as the finance director, and then I have 2 right now on my staff that are full-time. One is an accountant and the other one is an accounting technician. And what we do, our services, we handle the utility billing for all of the water and sewer. We take payments at City Hall. And then to the accounting side, we pay the employee, we support Haley with paying the employees for payroll. We pay all of the accounts payable, reconcile the taxes, do the journal entries, and any other, at the end of the year, we'll have the audit. We collect in cash receipts. We do any type of AR billing for grants, for contracts that we have, and we monitor that. So in the accounting department, that's what the staff does. Now, we do have in this budget, before, we've always had somebody to help support the front desk and take payments. We do have a part-time person budgeted in this, so it'll be in the total of the finance department, 3.6 is what it comes out FTEs count in this budget. And then we can look at, we can go on to building and planning, and I know Amy Augustine is here tonight, and we built this budget together. Do you want to come up and?
Sure.
Okay, I'll let Amy speak.
So in building and planning, we have a contract, me, and then we have a full-time building inspector who also does fire inspection and also does code compliance. And we have a permit tech who helps intake all of our planning and all of our building permits and whatnot. The budget this year is not going to be too different than it has been. We're basically, I'll just hit some of the highlights of what we're asking for and carrying over Foundry Lane again. We've progressed, we finally got our decertification, so now we're actually in a position to hopefully finalize acquisition of everything we need for Foundry Lane. And to do a final grading plan, part of which will go to engineering, as well as doing their specific plan. We also include something we've called web design, but it sounds a little deceiving because it's not really so much web design as it is our park. We want to set up an online system for having people reserve the park, because that actually right now takes a lot of time and effort. So we want to have a park page, people can come in, find out when it's already reserved, put in their request for reservations and be able to do that type of thing. The last thing that's sort of a little bit new is we are asking for a grant writer. We're actually asking for that on behalf of multiple department heads. So that when we have a CDBG grant come in for something like a fire station or a police station, we have somebody who really knows CDBG. Because if you're going to be successful with one of those grants, you need somebody who can do a really good job with that, and who's been attending all the training sessions and whatnot. So we are asking for some funding for that. Otherwise, we do expect some increased revenues because, and I've been saying this for 3 years straight, but this time I really mean it, Habitat for Humanity will be pulling all of their building permits, hopefully very, very soon. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
They're gonna pull all of them or
No.
just
the first.
the first, right?
First
Phase?
10 is
First
what they're
10,
gonna
okay.
do first, and then they'll go from there. But they have only 4 basic models. And so as soon as they find out which person will own which lot,
Okay.
we'll have the plot plans. We're already ready for them at
Okay,
planning
good.
and building. We're waiting for them to finish financing so they know which person has picked out which house on which lot, and then we'll be able to start issuing a bunch of plans.
Yes.
Is that just one?
And I noticed that the increase in permit fees is predicted to be about $117,000. How much for each house on average? How many houses is that based on?
So that's a tough question because we are giving them offsets. You remember all those things we brought forth. So a lot of them will be paying primarily the building fees, plan check fees, and the building permit fees, and then whatever is left of the impact fees, which is mostly long-range planning fees. I believe they still had some of, a little bit of fire, a little bit of police.
And the school mitigation, all right?
And school, unless school has let them off on some of that. But we have it set up so that until we get past like 50, 60, 70 of them, actually clear up to about 100, not so much on water, wastewater. And we are still working on the traffic to reduce that.
How do the townhouses or whatever work, the condos? Is that multiple permits? Like how does that, and if they're all stacked, just because then there are condos going in or townhouses?
There are, but we treat them as individual units.
So each one gets its own permit even though?
That's not how they get built, but that's how they get rented, or not rented, but purchased. So I don't know how they're going to break them up. There's sixplexes, unless they change that.
7 sixplexes.
7
for the plan.
sixplexes. So they'll do one at a time type thing. So they'll do that, start the next one as they start filling up the first one and do it that way.
So Amy, I'm still trying to get that 117 figure. It's a big number. And I understand that Habitat paid for some of the underground work and the city is going to reimburse them for that. How is that being budgeted, and are we ignoring that for this section?
I believe that has been reflected in the income amount. On that 117, do you think, I honestly don't know exactly how many permits and fees.
I'll be
we budgeted
surprised if
for.
10 homes get built in the first year. And 117,000, that's a big number for 10 homes. That's what I was wondering, are you guys counting on 10 or 20 or 30? How many homes are you counting on?
No, we're actually expecting more than that, but they're going to do 10 to begin with. We actually are expecting they're going to go a little over that this year.
Okay, that'd be great.
But isn't this number also taking into consideration the historical average of new homes being built other than Eureka Oaks?
It does, as well as all other permits and fees for site development permits. We're also going to be having Foundry Lanes site development permit for the commercial. We're also going to be having income from what we hope will be a second shopping center very, very soon. So, plus our normal single-family residences and stuff. Thank you for reminding me of that.
So you guys are comfortable with that 117? That just seems like a big number, and I'm a little more pessimistic on how many units have.
I'm the one that's usually pessimistic and trying to get that number down. Because the timing, I hope, is finally right, and we finally gotten past decertification, and we do anticipate that we will be starting in with that second phase of the shopping center. I'm pretty comfortable with that number. If you do that plus the income that we would be getting from Habitat, yeah, that 117 isn't 100% Habitat.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And moving on, so we spoke a little bit about city council, and so what's included there are the stipends and taxes related to that. We do have some training we set aside for like League of Cities, and then we have there's some the professional services. A lot of that is with IT. There's a cost with IT with maintaining equipment. And then there's a budget in there for some equipment and software we have to pay a fee for, like Microsoft and that sort of thing. And then the way the legal expenses work, so coming in, we're proposing a slight change in the legal fees, a reduction, knowing that this year we have budgeted a full city administrator. And then the cost allocation, that's the portion that goes out to the water and wastewater program. So we allocate that directly when it comes across through the bills. It goes into the legal account and then we use it. Anything that's earmarked on the legal bill for water or wastewater then gets allocated out. And it's about $50,000 in the year that would come through on average. So we've reduced that from the previous year. It was always higher. We don't ever get around 100,000. I think that was a little generous. So I brought it down off of the historical cost off of the bills. It's about 50,000 that will go out to water and wastewater and get allocated, and it's in their budget.
And so, Michelle, the stipends, I'm assuming the change of $107 isn't that we did not raise our stipends, it's just the statutory benefits associated
Right.
with those fees.
Correct,
Okay,
correct, yeah. The stipends remain the same.
right.
And then just a note that the operations, utilities, supplies, maintenance is doubling because it's an election year.
Correct.
And so that if someone sees that doubled, it's because
It's in an election year, so there's some other costs associated with that. And then moving on with community support. So that's our tourism, our community development, any type of outreach. And so there are TOT tourism is the money that we earmarked. There's a 4% increase that had occurred, I believe, was that 2018? And it was earmarked for roads and tourism and public safety. And that is the proposed amount we're projecting for this year from last year's budget. And then intergovernmental revenue is money from our ARPA. It would be anytime I move money from a fund or reserve in to support the program. That is coming from the COVID money that we still had that has been released, the restrictions, and we can use it. And right now, the council has designated that as for tourism or for community support. And so really that 50,000 is going to support some of the frog bite programs and some other little offsetting costs to balance the budget. Some of our expenses we've put aside, the cost for frog bucks, it's 50,000 that we put as a contribution, and then there's some fees for the program that administers that of about 2,500. And then rent for the Mark Twain exhibit downtown is new this year. So we put that in there. And then we have it says Community Support Museum, but that's really for tourism, the Calaveras Visitors Bureau, and then any support for the museum there. Totals 150,000 a year.
And how much of that is to the museum?
To the museum is 50,000.
And is that an increase from last year, or is that the same as last year?
I believe, and Mike can help me
I
here.
think it's actually
the museum
57 this year.
57,
Last year it was
correct.
50.
I'm going to bring that back to you about the 57.5, I think.
But we did go ahead and budget the 57.5 just in case, so the money would be there for the proposed increase on that.
Yeah, because I would like to have a discussion about that. I'd like to learn more about the total financial situation with the museum, because we're supposed to be weaning off of that support, and I don't see that happening.
That is a reduction, I think, of about $40,000 from the part-time market. This is not included in this proposal.
Yes, it's just
So
the
it
support.
definitely is a decrease.
I thought you just said went from 50 to 57.
Two parts. There was, so 50 was the base, and then there was additional 40 or so. It was the.
Or we hired that one.
Market of this.
Yeah.
Going from 50 to 57 was simply it was about a
escalator.
3-year-old contract, and just taking on the price of inflation to keep them equal for that portion to operate the museum.
So this isn't set in stone. We can't have a discussion about the museum, approve this budget.
Yep.
That doesn't necessarily approve that.
Yeah, they're going to come and do a presentation.
Okay.
And it's just the money now is earmarked in the budget for those type of things, but of course, if the contract gets approved for a lesser amount, then we know we have a savings and we can do a budget adjustment to it, but we've gone ahead and earmarked it. And then the Frog Hop of Fame is our downtown for the Frog Jump Winners plaques. Every year, we're up to date, so.
And we've ordered them for this year?
I don't know, have we ordered the plaques yet this year?
I hope.
I look. Yeah, I'll follow up on that and make sure, but we have it in the budget for this year.
Yeah.
We have 3 more weeks to spend it. But no, yes, we did have it in the budget every year, and we're continuing that for next year's winter. And then engineering. Engineering's a tricky one because it looks, 70,000 for engineering. We actually have it in many places. This is the engineering for the general services for the city, overall general engineering that isn't specific to maybe grant funding or the enterprise, water, wastewater. And so that is increasing 10,000 this year, 70,000 for those professional services. But you'll see in building and planning, we have for Foundry Lane, 50,000 of engineering in there. And then we also will see it in the water and wastewater budget. We'll see it in public works budget. They have monies for roads of revenue that comes in through for public works, and we will put a line item for professional service and engineering within their budget. So this is just any type of the general services that Lumos will do for us in their contract. And then
I have a question.
Sure.
I know that you have now applied for reimbursement for CPPA for the $30,000, the grant for the lighting for the park.
Yes,
Yeah,
Right.
we're giving them all their receipts. So
Right,
that
you're
they can
getting all the
reimburse
receipts
us.
so we can get reimbursed. And so
Yes.
that's gonna be new money to the budget that we weren't anticipating,
Correct.
right? Because we had.
Is that in this budget or
Yeah,
next
the
year's
money-
budget?
We-
Is that coming back to this budget, the 25-26 or 26-27?
It'll be 25-26.
Right, so it's not going, it's not for this
But
budget.
at least those dollars will fall to the bottom. I guess my question is, or comment, I'd like us to use some of those dollars to assign a task order to Aaron so that he can look at our crosswalks and start to plan what those upgrades would be like to promote safer crosswalks downtown.
And Aaron, if he is on the phone listening right now, he wasn't able to, oh, look, there he is.
But I have a question
Go ahead.
overall with, so at the end of the 25-26 year, let's say there's $250,000 that we haven't spent. What happens to those dollars? Because that's what we're talking about, is the money that's coming in. So we have
It
the,
just
so
goes
is
to the bottom line.
is it rollover into the general fund or into
It would
reserves?
go into the, whatever program, yeah, it would go into the reserves. for
So it would go
that.
into
if we had
reserves,
it
okay.
excess, yeah, that came in.
Okay,
Correct. Sometimes that money would come through a fund, and then it would be in the fund balance for that fund.
okay.
Like our gas tax, we don't always spend it in years past, it would roll forward
Right.
and go into the reserve there, and you could spend it in future years.
And on the crosswalk thing, because you're on COG, so
Oh,
that's
yeah.
not coming up on the COG radar at all
Well,
with Caltrans?
I think that's part of the Main Street plan.
I
right?
thought it was too, but only to a certain point.
I know.
It is.
The active transportation grant is being submitted later this month. It includes the Angels Creek Trail and downtown
Okay.
crosswalks.
Okay.
Okay.
So obviously, we don't know that we're going to get that, but that is a funding source for that.
And so is the pedestrian, the $25,000 a year that's allocated.
That one I don't know about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't want it to come off our radar.
No, but I feel like if it's, you want to have a new funding thing, that should probably,
Well, it's not a new, I was suggesting that the $30,000 that haven't been accounted for this year, we could add, create another task for Aaron and use those funds to pay for that task. That's what I was suggesting.
There's an agenda item.
yeah, then the
Well, that's fine. I don't care.
Future agenda.
I'll write that down.
And Aaron, Aaron on the online, is there, and then we'll be talking to Aaron as also when we get to our capital improvement projects, because he's part of the CIP, but I don't know if there's anything, Aaron, you would like to add or discuss?
He's frozen.
Aaron, frozen?
Stop blinking.
There you go.
Yeah, is there anything that you would like to add or discuss before we move on from engineering?
I agree with the discussion that Michelle's provided. If there's any questions for the council, I can answer them, but yeah, I'm good.
Okay, and then now we move on to the fire department. I have the fire chief here. Would you like to
Sure.
get up and you want to have your packet?
How's it going? Mayor, council, city administrator, attorney.
Our fire department budget is pretty close to what it was last year. I'm sure you guys have sort of went through it. We were actually, I worked with Michelle really hard on some of the expenses. We were actually able to decrease our expenses from last year. The revenue changed a little bit from some intergovernment transfers. She can explain that a little more, probably TOT and carryover.
TOT, and then you had some Prop 172 money that carried over that you used to
We didn't have
purchase
that for sure.
equipment and training.
But we were able to decrease our expenses by about a little over 17,000, so that's really nice. As far as operational stuff for the city, it's the same as it has been, so there's no change with that. For me, it's pretty basic. I don't think there's too much more in here. You guys all know about the Measure A thing. That's still working good, and it's been a benefit to the city. As far as our ultimate, goals, for me, is always trying to enhance service and move towards to a couple programs that I know it's been talked to about me, and I'll continue to work on that, depending on how some other things play out. But that's about it. If you guys have any questions about fire, it's pretty good. We were able to save on expenses this year. So
John or Michelle, what is the capital outlay? 'Cause that's where the massive savings are, and we see increases in just about every other category.
So that 69,000 that's budgeted is that capital reserve amount that we've set aside for future equipment for the fire department. Last year, we had brought some money that we had, I believe it was strike team fund, Prop 172 reserves and TOT reserves to purchase some equipment, and there was the truck last year. I know, all the years are flitting. The truck, and so that's what the major expense was, and the difference is now we have the reserve amount, and there was a savings there for them for what we had spent, but that was all money, like you had said, that wasn't spent in 1 year, rolled over into that fund specific, and we were able to use it in last year or this current year's budget to make those things happen.
So the budget going forward, is that anticipating adding more personnel or staff?
On this present budget that you're looking at right now, no. This is status quo as of right now.
Okay.
Michelle, where's the Measure A reserve item in the budget?
So the Measure A reserve item is basically, we reduce the amount of income that we're looking at coming in, and then that excess will roll into that fund and we give it to them on a report we have to do annually. I have to break out how much we had.
And that's capped at a certain
10%. Yeah.
But you can't add 10% 1 year and add another 10%, it's just 10%.
10%, darn it. Yeah, I know.
My only question is, and I just thought, there is no water tender proposed into this. We were talking about trying to purchase that. You gave us a quote real quick one evening or whatever. That's not in there or anything.
Correct. None of that's in there. And the reason for me not to put it in the regular budget right now is because of some of the stuff that's been happening in the background.
Right.
Because if that's the case, I didn't want to, I mean, I could have done it. Could have proposed a water tender, but we might have one for free depending on how things play out. And as far as the EMS thing, that's just sort of the same kind of deal. We're sort of seeing how that's going to play out, and then I would move forward with however that plays out, depending on bigger.
We can always do a budget adjustment.
Correct, and that's what, and the city administrator and myself have talked about, and I've talked with Michelle about it. We made the conscious decision, do I want to ask for all this stuff right now?
Right.
Because how the timeline changed for stuff, otherwise I would have been asking for it. And so with us talking, we thought, well, let's see how this plays out, what's going on here, and then we'll make an adjustment. We might come to it mid-year if something doesn't happen, and we would definitely be asking for those kind of things.
Do you think we will be able to send anyone on a strike team if asked?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
In the our current situation, for sure, and then depending on how it happens, we could have a lot more alternative funding coming in.
Yeah, those were the vehicles that, part of that 69,000 that we have in there, we have, you want to talk about the vehicles that we're looking at replacing?
Well, it's just we prioritize, the items for replacement, and I'm really thankful and happy that we're doing that, because we haven't done that since I've been here now for almost 12 years. We've talked about a capital replacement, our vehicle plan. And that hasn't been in place. We've been fortunate enough to get our 2 new vehicles we received on grants. But moving forward, I think it's appropriate to start putting money aside to prepare for the rigs that we gotta do. Like our primary rig's over 20 years old, it's working okay. There does come that point where the maintenance that we're putting into that starts to really not make it feasible to continue to do it, because we've been probably putting $30,000 to $50,000 a year almost. New rigs are extremely expensive right now, so I'm always searching for grant opportunities on that. But I mean, a regular basic fire truck, you're pushing $1 million.
I'm sure.
Yeah, so it'll be nice we get this set up, and then I'll come to you with a plan on how to do that. And we're hoping to have enough money in here so when the windows start to expire for the next vehicle, we'll already have one going, and we might have to finance it, but hopefully that money that's coming in for a year that we're doing will pay for that finance plan. Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you, John.
Hey, thanks for coming.
Okay, we'll move on to the police department. So we have Steve here tonight. Welcome, the first year presenting. Would you like to come to the podium?
I'm going to only because this is the first time for me doing this, and let me tell you, I've learned a lot.
Welcome to the gym.
I appreciate that. And that's a good song. All right, a couple different things. First of all, Mayor, Council, I'm glad I get to be here. A couple different things, no outlandish requests. I went through this, I learned a lot. Michelle helped me a ton. So the fire chief, but I don't know that his advice was as good. I don't make money, I don't have stipends, I just spend your money. So a big thing for me is operationally, we're pretty much the same. I do need to fill a open sergeant position, and I also have a SRO position that it is a full-time position, but it's currently being filled by a PERS annuitant, so I need to find another officer. When I put this together, my biggest things and what I looked at is kind of technology and to modernize the department. So I did have some requests. Michelle kind of helped me walk through those. But other than that, I think we're doing pretty good. We're saving some money. And I think most of that is going to come from, well, it came from personnel, but it looks like we went up a little bit because of the 8% that we're paying the officers. And we also went up because fuel prices is going up, and I added a couple different cell cards because we have some new computers going into the cars, and each officer now has a phone. But other than that, I think we're kind of status quo, and hopefully we can move forward with some new technology.
You know, I just learned why you guys keep your cars on for so long. I had no idea that it was all about the computers.
It does, they shut down after a certain amount of time. Let me tell you, to reboot it here, it's 15 minutes.
Wow.
So it's tough. But I am looking into different battery systems that we can turn them off.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a question. It's not a big dollar amount, but I see that you're increasing your enforcement and fines from 3,600 to 9,000. What's that all about? We have to.
Okay, which number are you talking about?
That's the very top. Enforcement and fines, the revenue is increasing a little more than twofold. And I'm just curious, are we writing more tickets? What are we doing? What kind of enforcement and fines provide revenues to the city police?
I think Michelle's going to have to help me answer
that's
that
okay.
one. That's a toughie.
The new number is really based off of history. We budgeted low last year for that. We had had some, and looking at actuals and what comes through with that, this brings it more in line with what the revenue will bring in this year for those fines and enforcement. So it's like parking citations and tickets and whatnot that you have bringing in that. So.
I'm just curious, what kind of tickets provide revenue to the city? Because I get my tickets from the Superior Court.
Well, and you do the ticketing for the county.
So the city actually does, they do all of the parking enforcement for the entire county.
Right.
So we're processing highway patrol citation and sheriff's department citations. funds.
Oh.
Oh,
And
okay.
you get a percentage of it.
There's a little revenue there, I see.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions you can help me with?
Great, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't worry.
I didn't know that, yeah. Where are our parking tickets? Where are we gonna get these parking tickets?
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
And then moving on to our Public Works, Chris unfortunately couldn't be here tonight. He has an early appointment for his wife, and so he's doing the right thing and taking care of her. And so we wish him the best, but I met with him on Monday. We went over everything, and I can go through and talk to what is in his budget. And so in our Public Works with our revenue, there's a small portion we receive from Caltrans for street cleaning. It's only $4,600 in a year, not much, but it's revenue that comes in to cover that. Then they have some for basically the banner fees and whatnot. That's for hanging, we have Gold Electric that comes out and will hang the fees, and there's some money that comes through for them on that. Property tax rental, so they do receive the property tax, or not the property tax, excuse me, the property rental. That's for the pickled porch building that is rented. That money has always come through and been budgeted in the Public Works. They are responsible for like cleaning the bathrooms and whatnot, and so it's come through in here, and they maintain that property. So there's some staff time there that money comes in to offset their time, their personnel time, so that's why it's in there. And then they do the reimbursable fees here, let's see. They have, on my page here, that was the sewer, sorry, I got out of order here, shifting around. But they have, that's mainly funds that, here.
Too many pages.
I have too many pages and I got out of order here, shifting back and forth, so I flipped from my detail. Here we go. And this doesn't tell me too much more, but we do have some from rentals, park shelter rental. Let's see, that's all of our reimbursable. That's not under the property rental, but that's actually under some of the reimbursables. We have, let's see, the biggest number, we have 25,000. Oh, that's coming in water reimbursement from rental, property rental, let's see. And then park shelter rental, gas tax, that's under our intergovernmental rental. Yeah, so the reimbursable, there's two numbers here for 25,000, and one of them is a transfer that comes in for the water reimbursement from a rental, and then we do have about 25,000 in here for the reimbursable. If I can get more, I don't know off the top of my head what we can put in, but that's historically what has come in under the reimbursables.
Increase there.
It says 7,000 last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the increase from renting out the spray fields to PG&E?
That could be.
That's probably what
Yeah,
it is.
That's like a
Will you get back to me on what those are?
Yeah.
There's a $43,000 difference, that's I said that, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably.
And then moving on, we have our intergovernmental revenue. Some of that is our gas tax. In previous years, we had some rollover because we weren't always spending it on the projects. We weren't getting around to the projects, and in the last few years, we've been actually accomplishing like the speed tables that we put in over by Gardner, and then some of the resurfacing and crack sealing, and we purchased that. So we've been slowly spending those dollars, which is good. And so we did have a buildup of a reserve, and we have less of that because we receive a little over 100,000 in the revenues for gas tax. And, and then that's the RMRA, and then we have, it's about 97,000, and then the gas tax, there's two different pots, is about 105,000, so that's what makes up that 203,000, and I will find out about the reimbursable. And then going on to expenses, the salary, been interesting with Public Works because the 5 employees that work in Public Works are also shared with the enterprise funds because they're out there reading the meters, fixing the leaks, researching things, hanging the door hangers or whatnot. They're all part of that program. If there's a line break, they're out there working on it. So their time is allocated on their timesheet to the enterprise. They would note that they would get charged to water or wastewater. Any of their general services, roads, street cleaning, weed eating, whatever that falls park expenses, that time is going to be charged to the general fund and is part of this Public Works budget. So one of the pieces, we have some savings with our automatic meter readers that they're spending less time reading the meters, and we're hoping to focus then more on our roads and parks. And we have 3 departments that we break over. They're not really departments. Within the Public Works Department, we have 3 categories that we will track within the general fund. We track just when they do general duties. And then if they're working on roads, we break that out because we also have to report that to other funding sources, their time spent on that. And then third, I added a new category in the last year, we have it for this year, is for parks. And I know that's always been a question, is how much time, how much money does it cost to maintain our parks? So now we're getting better, stronger detail on that. It started this year, but now that we moved them probably in April onto electronic timesheets and they're able to drop down and choose that activity, it's gonna be a lot cleaner and more accurate. One of the things I've seen though is that there's more time spent on the general fund versus water and wastewater. So we're having to shift some expenses, and this budget takes that into account, what we're estimating. And we will watch it, but because they're going to have that savings with the meter reading, and we won't have all 5 guys out there reading meters for 3 days. We'll have 2 for a day, maybe 2 days. There's going to be a savings to the water and wastewater fund, and it'll be allocated here. So that's where you're going to see. And then there's also the majority of the staff is new under, except for Quentin and Brent, who have been here. Brent is the foreman. So you have a new guys that have been hired, and so you're going to see them, that even though it's a lower salary right now, you're going to see them, and they'll have their merit increases because they're at step 1. They'll move up, and that's also been budgeted there, plus the benefits and the retirement. So in that category, and then for operations, utilities, maintenance, and supplies, they had a lot of they had some. The vehicle maintenance repairs in the past year. We're estimating some of their vehicles, we've been switching them out, and we're hoping to not have as heavy a vehicle maintenance. And then also now that we have this replacement plan, I know he is interested in, and we'll bring that back at purchasing, I believe it's like a tractor, is that what he's, I'm looking at Mike because I know he shared some of that. But there's equipment that he's looking at replacing. Yeah, some very old, I think one piece will replace 2 pieces of equipment.
Yeah, they're just looking at a pump and I think it's like a hose as well. So you can usually use one, you use them both, and so it's like the
like a compressor
drainer.
or what do they talk?
No, like a
power bag.
Well, and then a flushing device as well.
Okay.
Yeah, he had some pretty pictures here too. So that'll come at a separate time. I'm just letting you know that that's going to be part of our equipment replacement fund, and that has been accounted for there in that replacement cost in that spreadsheet that we have there.
I have one question. We had like an extra hire, who is a retiree that we hired.
Yeah.
Is that built into this also to keep him on? Because that seems to have helped quite a bit, or is that a different thing down the road?
So he's close to hit, he's allowed to work 960 hours, and
Right.
he's close to it. Chris would like to keep him on. The only way PERS will allow us to keep him on is to change the work he's doing. So he will no longer be a part of the public works budget. He's gonna be 100% on the sewer project, which will be wastewater. And
Okay.
so we're keeping him on. He'll get another 960 hours because we're putting him
In a
into a
different
totally
department.
different department.
Perfect.
And he will focus on the sewer projects that are happening and be like an oversight, and that frees up the foreman's time, Brent, so that he can go out and supervise the gentleman. So yes, it's a win-win, right?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And then there, professional services, equipment, software, those are just our operating, our mostly IT. Would be some professional services. There's also some engineering in here. And I believe that's part of what the reimbursable 25,000, I'll double check it. I think it has to do with engineering. But I will double check that of money that's coming in for that. But there is some roads because we will have the pavement management plan year 2, and those are funds that will come in here through gas tax, and then the costs will be offset in this budget for professional services and whatnot. Any other questions for Public Works? Okay, and so that leaves us to move on to our enterprise, but I wanted to give you a recap here. Pull the page out. So in our budget in the general fund, since we're recapping that, we're projecting in revenue of like 7.142 million. So just a little over 7 million of revenue in. I believe that's, and then of course, like I said, the expenses match 7.1 in expenses, which would balance our budget to 0 for the year. And we will definitely be bringing back mid-year a report for you on how the performance is going and make any adjustments if we see any savings or any additional revenues that come in along with those equipment plan purchases. Moving on to our enterprise funds, so those are kept in a separate fund. Those are from our ratepayers, revenues that we collect through water and wastewater. The revenues are generated. We have every 5 years, we do the Prop 218, where we did the previous year, and they do a broader water rate study. They look at costs not only of your salaries and your operating costs, and they project it out 10 years to get an idea of what you'll need. They look at what your capital projects are. They look at the type of residents, what you're going to be billing commercial versus residential. And put together what they feel like you would need for your rates to not only cover your operating expense, to continue to maintain your reserves, and then to cover your capital projects. And in those capital projects, we list, are we going to go out for a grant? Are we going to use our reserves to pay for this? Are we going to go into debt to look at that? So those are all the factors that go into that rate plan that set the rates each year. Of course, we brought last meeting to the council that every year we look at those proposed increases and determine if we would need to, what we need to make of that percentage. The Prop 218 just sets the cap of what we can charge. So we reviewed that.
So Michelle, just like we were talking with Amy, is this just the current hookups, or do you project new hookups, and is some of this revenue projecting additional hookups, either through Eureka Oaks or the average new homes that are built?
Right now, in this budget, we're not projecting any new hookups.
So it's just current?
It's just current. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And that's something that we can then adjust mid-year.
Mid-year.
We just don't want to
Sure.
jump the gun.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, looking at our utility fee revenue, so we break out, we have a fund for water and we have a fund for wastewater. And then of course, because we're part of the JPA with UWPA, who we purchase the water through, and we're also members of the JPA, we have a separate fund that we account for those dollars. And on the invoices we bill for these 3 different categories, you have your water rates, you have your sewer rates, which will go into these funds, and then you have a UWPA fee. And so anything that is the revenues that come in go into that UWPA fee, and anything that we pay out, our contribution towards the UWPA fee is out of that one fund, and those are the only things that you'll see out of there. Plus there's some interest because we also have these dollars invested and we're earning interest. In this budget year, in our revenue, we're looking at our utility fees. So that's anything that we're going to bring in based off of services, consumption for water, any type of fees like administration fees, late fees, it absorbs. Also, we have a CAP program where we offset that with interest and with late fees that we're able to give back to people who meet the low income guidelines. They receive a $20 credit monthly on their water bill and $25 credit on their sewer bill. So it helps offset those costs and those fees. In terms of our expense for our salary, same thing goes into it. We just have in there the projected merit increases and for any additional costs that we're expecting in benefits, retirement, whatnot, nothing additional. Operations, pretty bare bones, just looking at what we project in terms of utilities, fuels, maintenance to go up. And professional services, now this is going to include engineering, but it's not our capital projects engineering, it's just engineering for the water program. So Aaron breaks out a budget for me and tells me what they think that general engineering for water is going to cost and that maintenance. When you see our capital outlay, that's the same thing. That's all our capital reserve amount that we're projecting for the year that goes in. Now that's 1/2 this first year. So know that in a full year, it would be twice that we'd be setting aside into there. And then O&M cost allocation. So there's a couple things that go into there. Not only would part of that be our legal fees, that $50,000 that you saw in the legal budget transfers over into there as an expense. We also get some time, so my staff handles all of the water billing and all of the payments. And so anything that's done through that would be allocated. We have a cost allocation plan. So we look at like number of AP transactions, because we don't charge, their salaries aren't charged directly, they're charged directly to the general fund, and then their costs are allocated based off of what they're working on. So our AP, when we pay AP, we pay it for everything, both enterprise and general fund. And then I can look at where those allocations were to which fund and then be able to allocate time spent on that. Same thing with like processing payroll for our admin services officer. We'll look at number of employees at each program and allocate out time for that. So we have a whole methodology and allocations that we'll do monthly out to the program. And so our estimated cost is historically off of what that tends to run. And so for this year, we are looking at that slight increase in that cost allocation, which is our legal and our time here working on the program. And then there's even some time off of, for the city administrators. So everybody, we look at their time and what they spend and allocate that through our plan.
That makes perfect sense.
And then the UWPA, that's that separate fund that we spoke about. So you see your utility fee revenue that comes in, any interest, and then our water purchase, that's our contribution. I know we had talked about, we've never approved that 5-year plan.
Right.
We do get invoice from UWPA, and they are invoicing us based off of that 5-year plan.
They are, yes.
So, I just wanted to let you know that's what I based this budget off of, is the same thing.
Yes, it was the 5-year plan, but then we also had to increase.
We just went outside of that.
Outside of
By
that for this year.
230 or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, and that's from the reserve.
That's from the
Yeah.
reserve,
Yeah,
right,
and
but yes.
we can do a separate
Yeah.
line item adjustment for that
Right.
when we get the final numbers. But for now, this is just our regular operations.
Yep.
And so I followed that schedule because every year they have been billing.
It's not for lack of us not wanting to approve the plan, it's that we've been held up by our JPA partner.
Right. I get that.
Yeah.
So it's budgeted for this year. We're able to afford it. You can see we're bringing in just a little bit over that proposed amount. That's with that 6.22% increase. So we're projecting about $450,000 in revenue and paying out $447,000. So anything that's excess that comes in, the interest or whatnot, it'll go into those reserves. So if we have to use the reserves to make a one-time payment, we're still able to put money back into the reserve each year. So, and that's part of the reason why we have to increase the rates to keep up with that, so we don't start going into the negative.
We're already praying for rain next year.
Yeah, good water.
The more
here.
rain, the less we have to pay.
There you go. And then in wastewater, same methodology as the water revenue. We have our utility fee. And then we have the property renter, that's the spray fields. So we receive $7,500 a year. That's the new contract that we have. And because the spray fields are part of wastewater, the money goes back into the wastewater program. And then our interest earnings and then same methodology in terms of a lot of the employees are split between water and wastewater. They're working in both programs. These employees are not working in, the main water and wastewater employees, the 5 that are in there, are not working in public works. We do have some public works salaries for when they are working in water and wastewater in this budget, but the 5 that are identified under water and wastewater department are 100% between these programs. And none of those salaries go to UWPA. It's supported by water and the wastewater enterprise funds. UWPA just pays for that contribution and that cost of the water. And then the same thing, allocation, the capital outlay is what we had planned for the replacement equipment, and then the cost allocation methodology. And then I do have, when I have the transfer out to capital projects, that's just an estimated of an amount that we want to cover and of our ongoing operations to cover those capital projects that we'll look at next. Do we have any questions on that?
I have no questions. I just want to hit real quick on the interest is absolutely pretty amazing. Yeah, the general fund is 218,000, water 225, and sewer 350. I mean, that's, at least from what I remember years ago, we weren't doing that per se, and stepping 8 years back, we didn't even have reserve funds at all. So that's a long way to come, and now we have these accounts that we're earning interest off of, so that's pretty amazing. So it is nice to see those numbers in there.
And that capital outlay program, that'll earn interest as well over time too, which will help.
It will. And as we get rid of, we also have equipment that we're not going to need to replace. That's just sitting there that needs to be surplus, and that money will go back into that fund to help support it. So we're even looking at the meters. We've got rid of. I found a program that will take them. We group them in groups of 100, and people will use them for spare parts in metal. So. That's going to be a program we're going to be working on, my staff and I, starting in July, getting together right now. All the department heads are having their staff gather what they want to surplus, and then we'll start listing it. I've got 3 different sites that will surplus government equipment for you, and we'll start looking for those, setting up accounts and getting that stuff sold. So yeah.
Well, thanks. I think we're being pretty good stewards of the money we have, and then making the best we can of every nickel, dime, and penny.
When I started here, we were only earning maybe 20,000, and we had over 20 million invested. And, well, it wasn't invested; it was just in a money market account, very low rate money market account. And we were paying 40,000 in fees for credit cards. And I know a lot of people get upset about the 3.5% 2.5% convenience fee, but the city was always absorbing that. And they have to understand that that impacts rates, because in my rate study, I've got a report that we're paying $40,000, and now I can say, no, we're not paying this anymore. This is no longer an expense burden by the city, has to cover. If somebody, we do give free options to pay their bill, ACH, we can pull every month, or they can go online and do an electronic check for free.
Everybody does it though too.
Yeah, but it's a convenience fee, it's passed through. If they want to use a credit card, then
Some people like the points.
they pay the fee instead of the city
Yeah,
paying the
get
fee.
the
We
miles.
really can't. It's not fair to everybody to have to burden that fee. So we have that $40,000 savings, plus now we're not just earning $20,000 a year on our investments. We're earning, in years past, close to $1 million.
Right.
And now we're right around $800,000-900,000, yeah.
Well, and if I
Big
remember,
difference.
the bank was also charging us
Fees.
all sorts of
All
service
sorts of
fees
Right.
to have our money there.
And-
And I know that was a big lift
Yeah.
to move banks and everything else. So I just.
Yeah.
But it was worth it,
Yeah.
like a lot.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been a
Millions
big
worth
process,
it.
but we've really benefited from it. And it's great because we had these monies in the reserve and we were able to invest them at a good time. We were getting originally about 5%.
Yeah, I was saying it was, yeah.
Yeah, now
So-
it's about 3.5%, but we're good.
I'll still take it,
And
yeah.
and it's all secure, it's all covered. The bank pulls out a special bond to cover it.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it's above the FDIC insurance limits amount, we're still covered through the bond that the bank offers. We have some invested with the state, with the LAIF program, and then we have wealth management. It's all through Bank of Stockton, but it's a separate division where they're investing about $5 million of that, where they play in different safe government markets that we're allowed to invest in to get a little bit better return. So,
I just had one question, and maybe it's in here and I missed it, but just one page, just an overview, like what is our total revenue, total expenditures, or maybe have all of the departments, and then at the very bottom, like here's our total revenue, total expenditures, because I think it's really good to kind of see that in a
One page.
one page, and like it helps also define total reserves. And what the interest is or whatever, but that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do you know what our total is for revenue and expenditures, what the big number is?
You mean in terms of both with enterprise, so the general fund I had reported.
Just
are
average
all
the
separate
whole
overall
thing, like
lines.
what's all money coming in and what's the total for all money
Yeah,
going out?
it's close to 15 million.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Yeah, that'd be great if you could add that page to the
I can
report.
do that.
Thank you.
But I think we have to make it clear that
15.
they're general fund dollars and
There's
then
7 on general.
Enterprise.
Yeah, you could-
And they're about
Right.
the same. The enterprise is just like a little over 7.5
Right,
million
that's
where
what
we
it looks
have,
like.
and then
That's
the
general
general fund
fund.
is the 7.1. Yeah.
Because the hardest thing for the public to understand is that some of those funds are restricted.
Right.
They're not
Yeah.
general
We
fund
can't
dollars.
use water money
Yeah.
on
That way
roadways.
it's going.
Yeah.
You have to be very
So,
careful. That's why we
yeah.
have a written cost allocation
Yeah.
plan
Yeah.
that describes when we take our general fund staff and charge them to the water program. It's very sensitive.
It's not like a household checkbook.
Yeah.
Nope.
And the auditors, they look at that stuff. They come
Well,
in and
yours is
ask me for
probably
my
pretty bad.
allocations and test them, so it's definitely being looked at. And so, looking at our capital improvement projects, so one of the cool things, one of the council member had asked me to go back and look at, and I thought it was a great idea, so I thought I'd share it with you, is when a year and a half ago or so, a few years ago, when we were looking at our 5-year plan, you went through and ranked what was high priority for you, was a medium and a low, and we put that in place. When I was talking with Chris, he's really excited because he said in this last 4 years, we've done more projects than we did in the prior 12 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
And he said it's just been amazing seeing what we're doing and at the speed we're moving forward, and we're continuing that. And a lot of this is the work that you guys put into this capital improvement plan and prioritizing these things. So I wanted to start with our water program. And I spoke with Aaron also as we were going through and looking at what his priorities would be for this next year, what he felt based off of your recommendations. And so looking at this, in this past year, so we completed the pressure valve replacements. It was originally estimated at like 980,000, and I believe Chris did that for like under 300,000.
He did.
It was much,
Right.
it was a huge savings, so that's great because that frees up money that then we have for future capital improvements. We paid for that out of the money we had in our reserves. We also decided to go ahead. It was a medium priority, but the automatic meter readers.
Oh my gosh.
That we went ahead and just did the whole program. It was like 2.4 million. And we used our reserves and we have replaced, I believe we still have larger meters that we're putting in the ground, but there's only like maybe 400 out of the like 19 or 1800 meters that we put in. So we have probably about 400, still larger meters, and they're slowly swapping those out. But the bulk of it, and it'll be exciting because this week we're going to do our second round and we'll have more meters in there. And I know last time we did, like it was like 1,400 meters or something like that in 4 hours.
4 hours.
Where it used to take 3 days. And so, and the accuracy. So that's what's nice. So we'll have another poll this week. They'll be going out and doing this towards the end of the week, and we'll have billing next week, and we'll have that analysis. So it'll be exciting. So those were 2 that we completed. They were a medium category, but we felt that they were important to get going, and we had the money to do them. One of the high priorities in the 0 to 5 years that we have budgeted in this budget for next year is the WTP2 transmission main replacement. That is also money in the reserves at 2.18 million. And that will be accomplished. That will be one of the projects we work on this next fiscal year. And then, let's see here.
You're not good at that.
And then the other one is actually a high priority, but it was in the 6 to 10 years where we have it budgeted for this next year, and that's to begin working on the backwash handling improvement project, and that's the WTP1. So that is for the water project. So out of the, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, where 2 were marked high. The 2 that are marked high are budgeted to be completed this year. And then we also completed 2 that were the medium priority in the previous fiscal year. So, and then moving on to our wastewater capital improvement projects. So this is fun. We had 4 marked high. This was we really focused on this. Of the 4, we have the Boosterway in Vallecito that is done. The third part of that, WWCS 1 and 2, is the East Angels trunk. That one we have a grant for, and so we need to get that completed by December 1st, and we're on schedule to start our RFP and get somebody in place here in the next couple of months. And then,
That's a short window.
and so that will be completed in next fiscal year. And then the other piece, so there's WWCS 3 and 4, which is not for this next year, even though it's a high. What Aaron had said is that we're going to complete this East Angels. And then we also have the I&I projects with CCTV that is in the budget for this year. That was another high one. And then he said as soon as we complete those, we're going to be moving on to these next 2. They're not budgeted yet, but they will be accomplished, either if we finish up early or in the previous, in the next
year.
Yeah, the next.
We should also add to that list, which wasn't authorized by the council, but the need for Purdy Lane and Dad's Way.
Right.
That was another.
That was another project.
Project.
That we've completed.
Right.
So that leaves us, so that would check off all our 0 to 5 that we've done in about 3 years, right? And then it leaves our 6 to 10 year project, but those are medium and low, and there's just 2 on that list. So we're doing really good at
And we still
moving forward this.
approximately $2 million left in that reserve for projects.
Oh, yes, we definitely do, yeah. And then, so one thing that Aaron had shared, and I don't know if Aaron's still on the phone with us or not, but he said when we do the I&I projects, that's where we take the cameras and go into the sewer lines. He said the area that we have for CCTV for this fiscal year, we're going to be starting at Calaveras Lumber by the lumber yard. He said we're going to go by the Bret Hart tennis courts to Purdy Road. So he said that's really one of the most critical areas where they see the most need. And so they'll get an idea of what work needs to be through there, and they'll look at that this next year. And then another piece that's in here in a capital project is to look at so we have it wasn't part of the capital projects, it's actually part of the water and wastewater budget, but it's every 5 years we're mandated to update our plan. So we have let me find it here. I have it over here in the narrative. So we have a water and wastewater master plan that needs to get updated. The engineer does that for us. And I asked him a little bit about it. I said, so why do we need to do this? Because for both, it's just under $200,000 of what it would cost. And he said that we are mandated every 5 years to update this plan from the state, and we're at 7 years right now.
Oh, okay.
So we are behind. And when I talked to Chris, he said, yes, please, we really need to get this done. He stressed that it would be definitely need to be a priority. So it is in the budget. It's something that we will be doing, and it is, we are behind on that. So we will be in compliance and get that update. Nothing's been told to us, but we're being proactive and we're getting it done. So that was also budgeted. So hopefully that gives a better overview of our capital projects and how we're working forward. And yeah, so overall, I like your idea. We'll put a summary in there of both so we can see total revenue and update some of those notes under the different departments. But are there any other additional questions on our budget?
You know, I want to, as Mike, I want to take a page out of Mike's book, and thank you. And for those of you who are new to the council or maybe new in the audience, when Michelle came to us to talk about the switch over for the new accounting system, one of the selling points was not only that Michelle endorsed it and said that it was a little bit more user-friendly, but it was going to save us like 15 or 16 or even more per year.
$30,000 a year.
How much?
$30,000 a year.
And we when you make a decision like that, you only see it for 1 year, but it's an ongoing savings on an annual basis. And I want to thank you, Michelle, for bringing that forward to us.
Yeah, and we are very happy with the new system. I know we had a lot of bumps in the road, but a lot of that was lack of staffing and timing with everything and what we were going through, but we made it through and systems, and it's exciting to see what we're going to do with the meters and all of that. And in terms of the accounting side, like so the reporting has been excellent in our new system, and what we've been able to implement this last year, requisitions, so it puts stronger controls on purchasing. Now everybody has to go on through the portal. All the department heads have access, and then they have key staff members who can do purchasing. It has all the limits, so it routes all the authorities, and it won't give them a purchase order number until they have all the appropriate approvals. We will be getting probably the mayor set up on the system so that you can approve certain ones, and timesheets, electronic timesheets. We now have 100% of the staff on the electronic timesheets. And those are also routing approval. And one of the pieces we've changed is that non-exempt staff now are logging their start times and when they take a lunch break, and then when they come back and when they leave for the day. So over time, all of that is documented. It's not just like, oh, I worked 8 hours today, solid 8. They are actually documenting time in and time out, and you can see when they say they took their lunch break, so that we're in compliance. If we're ever audited, we have that backup. So it's enforced those type of things. Also, it allows for allocations. They used to mark different marks on a paper timesheet, and now they can just drop down and say, oh yeah, from this time to this time, I worked on water. This time to this time, I did general, public work. So those have been exciting. Those are some things that we rolled out. Employees can see information on the portal. They can view their pay stubs. They can view their W-2s. We get through there. And then soon we'll be doing leave requests through there. There's a whole module I'd like to activate for managing contracts and grants. And it all comes with the program we purchased, so there's no additional charge with that. So there's been a lot of exciting things that we've rolled out and stronger internal controls. So from an accounting side, it makes me happy. So thank you for allowing us to do that. That was a big.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council before I put it out to public comment?
No, I do appreciate it, Michelle. I know you've taken a lot of time going over the budget with us, being here. It's a lot of time, so I really do appreciate it, and it's broken down so nicely.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and thank you to all the department heads for coming in under budget or helping us as the big picture to come together, because we aren't in a position where we're having to cut anybody this year or really cut any programs or anything. So it's really nice. So thank you to the department heads as well. Okay, so public comment. Come on up.
So I was just curious, sounds like you need a week vacation after all that. I was noticing on the tax sale revenue, has it been on a downward trend over the past few years? And what were you looking at with the, looks like 44,000 loss?
Oh, for the sales tax?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it has been trending down. Started seeing it last year. Originally, I had put a little bit more, 5%. It ended up being around a 2.5%. And I'm trending the same thing for this year.
Do you think it has to do with Rite Aid closing down part of that, or?
You know, what would...
Rite Aid.
Rite Aid closing down. Could be, they're seeing it. So I also do training amongst the state and our surrounding counties, and they're seeing similar. So I think we're just seeing it all throughout the economy. Yeah.
It's not helpful that building's
It's not.
empty.
Right. It would help.
Yeah, and it is helpful when we have like Hyde and Beryl doing what they're doing, and like if we can get others in the city, it's definitely helpful. Big things like that. So do we have any public comment online?
Nothing online.
You know, just kind of to piggyback on what Nate said, you wonder how much revenue we lost with the Caltrans configuration a year ago. And now with the configuration the way it is now with Demarest open, and remember the gentleman came from the pizza parlor?
Yeah,
so
that was a huge cut for him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not maybe sales tax are going to trend up a little bit. I mean, I still appreciate you being conservative, but a lot of it maybe has helped.
Well, in TOT, we had Wyndham was closed for renovation for months, and so there was not any TOT coming out of there either. So, I mean, it'd be nice to see that it maybe just holds and doesn't go down.
It would be nice.
Do we have a question for you?
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did.
Somebody did.
Well, Michelle was
asking.
Oh, was it Michelle?
Yeah. Okay, well, if we don't have any other public comments, so do we have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call. Beecham.
Aye.
Shemente.
Aye.
Sharada.
Aye.
Berlio.
Aye.
At this time, I'd like to take a break, and we'll be back in 10 minutes. Welcome back. We are on item 10D, Resolution 2664 and Agreement. Agreement for the provision of fire protection and emergency medical services between Angels Camp Fire District, City of Angels, and Altaville Maloney's Fire Protection District. Michael.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Thanks for that 5-minute break. I can be a lot more settled in my seat now. Thanks for that. This has been a heavy lift over the last about 3 months, and a lot of gratitude on my part to Hill and Berlio, as well as Chief Rohrbach, and to Altaville Maloney's Fire Protection District and Mike Foley in particular. By way of background, Altaville Maloney's Fire Protection District surrounds us entirely. We are kind of an island inside of their coverage area. And the way the mutual response works is that there isn't really geographic boundaries. Whoever's closest takes it. And so we've taken a lot of their calls to the south, and conversely, they end up taking a lot of our calls in the northern part of the city, just by geographic location. But along the way, Altaville Maloney has struggled. It's difficult when you're a very small fire protection district. You don't have a lot of people. You get kind of behind in things, and they've really struggled. And that culminated of the Memorial Day weekend, on a weekend in which they did not have any firefighters on staff and no one knew when there was a fire in their area and nobody was able to respond. They had already been asking us if we might provide some services for a short period of time, and that just seemed to be the final catalyst of a recognition that as a going concern, they were going to struggle. Conversely, there's a lot of economies of scale, I think, if you were to have a larger fire department that's serving a larger area, but with funding that supports that. And in particular, one of the things that I tease the chief about a lot is every time there's an event, if they have to race out, they have to take the ladder truck every single time. So someone has a medical call, and as we've discussed, about 80% or so of their calls are medical. They got to roll the big old truck every single time. And by the way, so did Altaville Malones when they're answering when they're answering calls back and forth, right? And so you have small staffs that aren't. It's very difficult to cover various vacations and leaves. You got to take your big truck. You're just not very efficient. And so the idea became that, well, we could provide these services for Altaville Malones, and we would, in the short term, take their Measure A money to fund that. They will keep their little bit of organic tax money. Some of that has gone down this year, but that's be roughly $150,000, at least for the short term. And we would then assume their geographic areas in response. We see this, though, as being this contract for service. It's written such that we're going to do this for a year, and they have one opportunity to back out. That would be before April of next year. And then after that, it becomes a 5-year contract with a 5-year extension at the city's request. We see, though, this as being the first step, and that we would really push to be consolidated very quickly, because we could then start to tailor our organization such that we can provide better services. And so we could, again, look towards more of a medical response. We can tailor our whole operation to do this in a much more efficient way. And so so that would get us started, and our idea is that for the first year, we would jump to it. Right now we have 3.0s on staff right now. At any given time, there's 3 firefighters here ready to roll. We would add just 1 at the first point, and then you'd have 2 teams of 2. Whenever there's a medical call, the 2 folks could run out and take that medical call, but anytime there's a fire, you've got 4 ready to go. And as you may have heard us discuss before, the 4 is a critical number because it allows you to go into buildings. Doesn't happen very often, but when it does, you then are staffed to do that organically. You're not having to wait for some other support. And I think there's a great deal of overlap between fire department and military operations. Having that habitual training relationship is hugely valuable. We wouldn't go on an operation and then have somebody join us, at the target. You need to be training with these folks all the time. So we would have a 4-man team that would be organic here. And then once we get through fire season, and probably through the course of fire season, we'll start studying some other options about how do we increase our medical response, how do we increase other sorts of structure for the long term. But in the short term, this would cover the fire season and then get to where we're providing better service for everybody, and then ideally make it a long-term commitment. So the request for the council is to approve the resolution, and then there's the agreement that we have worked on quite some time. Altaville Malones has already signed it, and so should the council approve, then we'd be able to execute it beginning July 1st.
So I know it's not on the table today, but you did bring up consolidation, and I think there's a section 3.5706 of the ordinance that was written for the Measure A, and I'm going to share a copy with Will.
I've seen it.
Have you seen it, Will?
Yes.
And
This
it
is the
says
Measure
that
A
any organization that was in existence in 2022, and if those organizations were to consolidate, then we wouldn't lose any funding. As we go down the road, and I truly support this, it's going to be better, and I think our fire departments are going to do a wonderful job for our folks in the city and those other areas. I just want to make sure that this ordinance would allow us to go down the road and consolidate and not lose funding.
It sure seems like that. Councilmember Chimente and
the city administrator and I have actually talked about this, and ultimately it will be, a county interpretation of this.
Okay.
But certainly the way I'm reading it, and I think that Mike agrees with me, is that 69% would carry on from Altaville Maloney's, and then the remaining, and then 1% goes to San Andreas as a fixed percentage. And then the other 30% is a function of population. So we don't know the formula on how that works. I suppose there's a possibility that of that 30%, there could be a small drop, but ultimately we don't know. So that's kind of where we left it. But clearly this, under the language as I'm reading it, and I think you read it and Mike reads it, the 69% would be fixed.
And there's a consolidated district now, and that's what they've done with them, is that they have the amalgam of both. I think that in terms of the percentage for personnel or for residents, is that the city remains the same. We're going to gain more territory. We're not projecting the revenue for Measure A for the Altaville Maloney's to be as high as ours because they don't have a large population, but we would end up with the same number they're getting now. So less than double, but still a significant amount. We're estimating at least 650,000, and I think that's a little conservative. The operational plan that we're proposing would have, and again, this is still a little bit notional. We're going to need to flesh it out entirely, but I think the most likely action would be to have 3 more engineers and then hire 3 more firefighters behind them, so we have
May I ask one more?
a team of 4.
Yeah, go ahead.
And so, help me visualize what this looks like. You said, would the 4 firefighters be stationed here? And if logistically, how's it going to work or be different?
I'm going to listen for John to throw something at me if I misspeak, but our conversations have been, I want to have all 4 right here, right? You want to have a team that operates together, that trains together, et cetera. When there's a medical call, they could jump into the Type 5, the small pickup truck, and go answer those in a much more rapid system. But we'd have 4 folks here, and so if there were a fire that broke right now, 4 guys run for the truck and they go.
So their equipment will stay there then, or is some of that equipment going to be housed here?
We would have access to all of their equipment. There's a couple of vehicles that we don't have any use for. Part of, I think, what the chief was referring to about the water tender. They have a water tender that we would then take over. You won't see an Altaville Maloney's logo jacket. It will be the Angels Camp Fire Department that runs it as a single stop, one belly button that does the whole thing.
So all firefighters will be City of Angels employees, no Altaville Maloney's?
Right.
Okay, just clarifying.
And so and I apologize for not taking a deeper dive, but some of the financial issues and the lack of an audit and things like that, that's all going to be taken care of before this? Or is there some clauses that are going to protect you?
You're exactly right. And so 2 things. One, the difficulty of just trying to force a consolidation too soon, that was just a bridge too far. Right. But also, absolutely, there are some fears that still exist. We don't know. Maybe there's a big lawsuit in front of them. Maybe they've been dumping toxic waste to the back. We don't know what we don't know. And so this is simply a fee for service in the short term. And then there'll be some diligence over the next little bit.
So the fee, so anything that, we don't take anything else on, and what they do in exchange is send their Measure A funds to us. And then
TOT?
They're going to keep their revenue,
and that will allow them to do the things they need to do. They still have a building, they got to pay a mortgage on it, they got to pay their light bills, they got to pay whatever, and so that will keep them afloat while we figure out a long-term plan and navigate, I think, what'll be a difficult, bureaucratic process to make that happen.
And then you'll do LAFCO and down the road and all that. So are you then, how is the relationship with the city with their current board then? How does that work organizationally?
They'll still exist in the short term. I think in the long term, and I'm going to say more than I know very quickly, but I would envision there needs to be some kind of a
wind
Why do
down.
they
right?
report anything? Because
Yeah.
otherwise, they wouldn't have representation.
Right.
So there probably be some kind of a thing.
Right.
Like, you know, where you might be a cemetery district or that kind of thing, where
Okay.
maybe they have.
Like a jail or something, okay.
But I've said an absolute requirement is that this council would remain the predominance of those things. You're not gonna get a redirect how we do business, the council gets to decide.
Right, maybe they're an ad hoc or something, however they, or something,
Sure.
but yeah.
Okay.
Well, like you said, they
So-
still have their property to maintain and all
Right.
that.
I do have a question. It was one I didn't think to ask before, but I mean, I personally think this is a great idea. Honestly, I mean, I'm sure you already know that, but I just thought about this. So, like, if you look at Ebbets Pass as an example, right? You've got 4 stations, and they have usually 5 on. You have a squad, and then you have the engine people. But they also have volunteers. Would Altville still potentially have like volunteers that could roll out, say if there was so no?
No, they have to have the same qualifications, right?
No, well, yeah, they would still be the same qualifications, but like I said, you've got stations 1 through 4. Even if it's like Bill, let's say, is off, but he wanted to roll out one of the engines to go on one of those calls, is it no?
Now, because the way that I understand it is that everything's gonna be through Angels, period. So if we made
Right.
a decision ourselves that we wanted to get into the volunteer business and have something like that, would be our decision.
Right,
We would
right, right,
have
right.
the Operational
Yeah.
response model.
And so
I mean, that's
I'm putting it
something-
under the Angels Camp Fire Department.
Yeah, I mean, that's
umbrella.
always something that can be looked at. There's pros and cons to that we could talk about. And I think those are the kind of things as we move forward, if we get started, then we're gonna try to navigate what's gonna be the best direction. Mike and I will work together for a future presentation for some operational plans to allow you to go, oh, that looks good. Okay, I like that too. You know, we have stuff in the queue for EMS operations and stuff like that, but I think the key is just to get started now, get our foot in. We have all the control of emergency response.
Right.
And then we can evaluate that over the course of some short period of time here and start making some decisions on how we want to potentially make an announcement.
So Chief, how are you gonna handle a call out at Frico City or at the limits of Altaville's?
So the
And
way
then a call here too.
It would depend on the type of call that it is, but right now hypothetically, if we had 4 guys over there and there was a call right now on Frico City Road, we'd send them in the smaller vehicle. If it's an EMS call, boom, they'd be en route. In reality, what happens is that San Andreas Fire and Cal Fire in San Andreas are closer coming up Calaveras Road to hit that. So they would be dispatched, but we would be notified that there's a call. And if it was a fire, then that would be our responsibility to go out there and then oversee it after we got there.
Okay.
But I hear your concerns, because I was concerned, like at bar 20 or something, and we have a structure fire, and then all of a sudden we have a fire in the city. Like, how are
And
we?
so the thing is that we already go on those calls now.
Right.
Yeah.
So if there's a structure fire at Frico City Road, like there was the night that was in question, our rig was there. If there's a structure fire in bar 20, our people are all leaving immediately to that fire. Because it's all based on, you know, closest 1 engine to 5 engines are going. And if we're in that algorithm, we're going.
And
then what we
dispatch,
do-
does dispatch rearrange if there's something that?
Then what happens is then they start moving the rigs to cover our area.
Yeah.
And then
Right, they move Murphy's down or Vallecito.
Yeah,
the officer in charge that day, then we start making some calls to make sure everything's getting covered.
Okay.
If not, then like on the Frico City fire, and actually on the Valley Springs fire the other day, that we were on a wildland fire out there for a bunch of hours, I called people in back behind to cover that to protect the city.
Okay.
So I think the thing to remember is that right now, as we sit here tonight, we have 1 crew here and there's 1 crew at Altamont Maloney's.
Right.
When we consolidate, you're gonna still have 2 crews to cover that same geographic area. It'll be a more efficient setup and one that's a little more tailor organized to the calls that we get. But we'll still have 2 crews just like we have right now.
So that plays into my, if I can, if we did. So you have 15 days then to be fully staffed, and is that an accomplishment?
Yes.
Okay, so July 1st, we can have 2 crews, because you have to take in new people to do this new staffing and to cover that. That seems like a pretty short time frame.
Yes.
To get that done.
Are we gonna be completely finished in 15 days?
But we can cover the calls. I mean, even if we have some overtime or whatever.
Yes.
I just don't want to be not able to cover calls and then we have in the same boat. So, And then I guess, so I think we have a lot of things to iron out still on this whole ball of wax. There's a long ways to go still in the next year, but, talking with Mike and both agencies to provide the best for the city and for our outlying communities, and with Fullaway and with Altamont Maloney's, I think that's the best thing we have is to partner up, and it is going to provide the opportunities we have. And then just, I'm going to throw out, we need to take this opportunity, though, to be the best we can be. And we've been talking about an EMT paramedic program for the 8 years I've been here. We've been talking about water tenders for years. If we're going to do that, then this is the time to do that too. So I do want to hold some feet to the fire on, if we're going to do this and make it, then let's do it, So I want some stuff done in the next year. I want some numbers. I want to be able to see some stuff and see where we're going. We have a year to put this all together, and then after that, we're moving forward. So that's my
We see the next about 6 months as being the time to really study that, right? How much money do we save by breaking into two?
Right.
And then remember too, that there's a point up till next April where Altamont Maloney's could back out. So we don't want to make any kind of commitment in manpower or changing our trucks or whatever if they could back out. So we'll know, we think that the change of manpower represents about $500,000 worth of cost. We expect to get about $650,000. So great, we'll get through the fire season. And why July 1 matters is then it's really clean. All your Measure A money for this year. So we're kind of building the airplane in flight.
Right.
But what that will do is then by the time we get to October, November, we'll say, okay, we now have a good sample set of what does this cost us, how much is available, how do we structure ourselves to better serve the entire community?
Right.
I have a question about hiring. So if we onboard and hire some new firefighters, engineers, and in April we have to unwind, how are those employees dealt with?
The thought is that we'll do a term for the first year. After the first year, then it's entirely on us. We have the ability to continue that contract for the rest. So we let the folks that we bring on know that it's a term position, subject to the continuation of the Measure A funding at Altamont Maloney's. If Altamont Maloney's stands back up, I imagine they'd probably want some of those folks back too. But again, I think, and the council members are on the ad hoc committee, I think that Altamont Maloney's recognizes that they're just not able to
And the station can handle having 4 people spending the night here?
So we can go up to 6, I think, without,
Oh, we have beds.
Yeah. But 4 could be without even breaking out the Murphy's bed. Folks could have rooms.
Stacking them up like firewood.
More pasta for the boys.
Just for a second, I just want to say, I know a couple of council members have really been to the water tender. I can tell you on July 1st, you'll have a water tender in service.
Right, and that gives us then an opportunity to look at it, and if it doesn't for some reason pan out, then we need to purchase a water tender, or that's just something we've been talking about for years. Same thing with that EMT program, that advanced paramedic, whatever. That gives us a door open, and even if it doesn't work out, it lets us have a trial run at it and know what we need to do and to produce. So I'm just saying this gives us opportunities, it gives us funding sources to do it, even if things fall apart or whatever down the road, which I hope it doesn't. I think this is going to benefit our community
I do too.
100 times, 100-fold. But even if that doesn't, I just want to move forward with that too. We've been talking about it for a long time, and I want to move forward with that.
That's also nice that Brett Hartman also has the fire program to kind of.
And so I'll ask you the question again that I asked during budget. If the opportunity for a strike team comes up, can we still do that with this scenario?
Yes, and actually you're going to increase the ability to have,
Okay.
and we'll have a higher staffing. So you increase the opportunity for alternative funding.
Okay, great. Perfect. All right, so if there's no questions from council, I'll put it out to public comment. Anyone online have public comment?
Nothing online.
Okay, so I'll bring it back.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2664.
Second.
In agreement. You can decide what you're gonna do there.
She got it. Give it to Karen.
Beal.
Aye.
Shemente.
Aye.
Sharada.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Braulio.
Aye.
I do want to, before I move on, just recognize that this is, it's emotional for a lot of people because of how many folks have put their time in as volunteers. It goes so far back. And we talked about consolidation probably 20 years ago, and the emotions were high. It was hard. It's hard to let go. And I know that it's a legacy it's a thing. So it was.
It is, but I honestly, I keep thinking it's gonna be, but
No, I'm not, it's good. I just wanna put that out there, like
Honor that.
honor that, it's good that we're moving forward and that we're going on to the next legacy, so, okay.
Well, Altonville Maloney's, they can be comfortable or in their legacy.
Yeah.
Because they existed so long and they held on so long, we get almost twice the Measure A money if there is a consolidation.
Yeah.
And they get credit for that. It's going to be a better, stronger department for the entire community, and that's not lost on me for sure.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the efforts of the
same.
and their board.
Okay.
40 years each on the board or something like that. It's crazy.
Oh, dang. I know.
Hey, I got to add one closing thought on that, and a number of you have expressed this to me as well, is that I would not have been interested in doing this at all, except for the fire department that we have. Like, it's a good group that responds well, that really, I'm not worried about doubling the geographic area because they're sharp, right? The vehicles run well, they're good professional folks, and I'm not worried about the additional task on them because they're just a good crew.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to item 10E, resolution 2661, 2662, 2663, designation of city administrator as ADA liaison officer, DBE liaison officer, and adoption of ADA grievance procedure.
Well, house cleaning, this falls into the categories of other services assigned. There's a number of opportunities when the city needs to have somebody designated, and so as your city administrator, that would fall to me, and so the question is, if you appoint me for those 3 bullets sufficient.
Yes, I make a motion to appoint.
Any council discussion, questions?
I'm not tired of being an officer for all these years.
Any public comment? Anything online? Okay, bringing it back for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 26, 61, 62, 63.
Second.
Beal.
Aye.
Shemente.
Aye.
Sharada.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Braulio.
Aye.
Carries.
Thank you. All right, moving on to informational items.
Thank
Amy.
you, Amy.
Nothing? Okay. Administration report?
Not this time, thank you.
Okay. City council report. Scott?
No report.
Shemente?
I attended the opening of Farmers Market on the probably hottest day of the year, but it was wonderful.
It wouldn't be the opening day of Farmers Market if it wasn't over 100.
Oh my gosh, it's so, and the park, I mean, it's too bad Amy left, but I spent some time in the park, obviously, at Farmers Market, and it just is, it's being well maintained, the bocce courts are clean, so that was impressive. And I also had an opportunity to speak at the Habitat for Humanity's PG&E workday when they put in the community garden. And I took the opportunity to thank PG&E for all that they do for us, especially during the storm to restore power in the Arnold area. And I think they were appreciative of it. And I think we should take the opportunities to thank our partners more because ultimately, like the lead PG&E worker said, all we hear is people complaining. And they do. But they do great things, and this was an example of them spending a day helping Eureka Oaks build that community garden. And that's all I have to report.
Karen? I have no report. Alvin?
I had COG and Calaveras Transit, and they basically mirrored one another. The big things that were there is we did a minute or an order change, amendment number 2 for the fiscal year 25-26, which did some housekeeping and cleaned it up and got it to like a 0 budget, and then we approved the 26-27 budgets for both. And there was some advertising, we approved some advertising agencies too. But that was about it on.
And did you,
unless there's anything
you
else.
must have reported on the Utica meeting we had last time.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Done.
Anything else on COG?
You missed that one.
I did. Thank you for reporting on.
No, that was it on the COG. Just don't have your binder printed. She asked, it was in a quick text, you want your binder printed? I said, sure, and it was like 600 and something.
Oh, of
pages.
course.
Out of the
Oh,
budget.
I missed this.
I just checked sure real quick, and then I got there, and it's this big, so yeah. it was a bad
Yikes.
judgment.
Yeah.
But I burned down some paper.
Yeah. Yeah. I have nothing to report. I did go to the farmer's market, but I went much later, and but it was great. Okay, and thank you everyone for holding down the fort while I was on vacation. Appreciate that.
It was a great mayor.
Yes, good.
3%.
3%. Let's see. So future agenda items. Just in all the talking, I had traffic mitigation report update. I don't know if anyway. Sidewalks.
Sidewalk. And, go ahead.
No, crosswalks. Excuse me. It's
Crosswalk.
crosswalks. Yeah, go ahead.
And I'd like some closure on Nate's sign too. I'm not
I know,
sure.
I've asked that like 3 times.
I'm not
I
sure
know.
what Nate is asking where he wants it.
Well, we were going to do something in the roundabout, but now that the roundabout's not happening,
But I
he's
did
asking
talk
for
to
a
Steve
plan.
at one point because he said you can't just put signs on the highway because they're the highways.
It's a state
So
road.
he had mentioned about putting them on existing signs that we have, like something to point more downtown because it has to be on something that's existing. Since if not, it takes a long time to go through the state to get approval for the signs on the highway. But we've talked about this several times. I don't know
I
where
think
we
it'd be
are.
a good agenda item to do because there's other potential areas we can do some sign pointing people to downtown. So that's a good.
I bet we still have on file the wayfinding report from 10, 15 years ago.
Well, yes, that's what was used for the wayfinding signs that actually finally got done.
Right.
That report was used and
I
turned
think
in.
there were a lot of them that were never done though because of the Caltrans
Well,
issue.
And I didn't know, I mean, I don't know saying that we want to do this or they'd be okay with it, but I was just thinking, we've been wondering if the Relaries, like, because that is their property that has, like, that could have like a sign or something.
Right, private. Look at private property options.
Yeah.
I had frog plaque. And, I put here just an update on CIP plan, but you kind of covered some of that. But I think at a future agenda item that would be good. And
This is the first part of that?
update on CIP plan,
Yep.
like where we are, because she was doing it verbally, but to get the whole update at some point. And then the water wastewater master plan needs updated, so that's coming. That's my notes from today's meeting.
And the only other one I have is, for those of you who don't know, I've taken interim superintendency. It was supposed to last 6 weeks back in November. But we get it's called PAN, policy updates. And one of the policies was a board policy talking about how to deal with what a board member's role is, and it defined that role, and it also talked about, the do's and the don'ts, and in our handbook, we have talked about that a little bit, but I don't want to be punitive, but I would, because this policy actually went into what happens if you start to micromanage, what happens if you start to give direction, and it's not an agendized meeting. And I would like the two of you to maybe draft, maybe along with Caroline, some language that we can just add to that section of our handbook that talks about what is truly the role and responsibility of a council person.
So I got something that piggybacks onto that actually.
Yep.
Because I don't know why it keeps popping up in my brain like tonight and stuff. Should we or can we respond to public comment, whether with, responding back or giving information or can we or should we do that, or do we just listen and direct staff to make contacts back?
If it's on an agenda item, so the public comments at the beginning of the meeting, there shouldn't be back and forth. If it's on an agenda item, you can engage in dialogue if you want to, but you certainly don't have to.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the rule.
Okay.
The only other thing too that I had that I just thought of too was for you, and that is the employee handbook update.
I just sent the new draft with the updates to Michael. It is being formatted and almost ready for release to the bargaining units. So we have updated a number of the
Are
policies.
you discussing item?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
You're right. No,
She just like walked you into that.
I will update you.
Okay. That's great. I know. Paul.
Next time, don't take her call.
I feel like it's trapped.
I block her out. Okay, if there's no other agenda, future agenda items, I think we are ready for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Gilsman.
Aye.